Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the channel. Today, we're talking about gratuities and tipping on celebrity cruises. And before anyone jumps to conclusions in the comments, let me be very clear right from the start. This is not about being cheap or avoiding tips. Cruise staff work incredibly hard, and I fully believe they deserve fair pay and recognition for exceptional service. Even if you've cruised before, I know a lot of you still have questions. Do you actually have to tip? Can gratuities be removed? Where does the money go? Should you prepay gratuities or wait? And are you tipping twice without realizing it? In this video, I'll go over exactly how celebrities' gratuity works, where the money goes, and what your tipping options are, so you can make informed decisions before you sail. How much are celebrity cruise gratuities? On your onboard statement, Celebrity Cruises refers to them as onboard gratuities. For most passengers, they function as automatic daily tips. And this is where one of the biggest cruise pricing pain points comes in: sticker shock. You book your cruise, and it feels like a great deal. The fare looks reasonable, maybe even like a bargain. But then the cruise ends. You review your final onboard account, and suddenly a few $100s in gratuities has been added to the total. For guests in inside ocean view and veranda staterooms, the current rate is $18 per person per day. That doesn't sound excessive at first, but remember, it's charged per person, and it applies every single day of the cruise. Let's put that into perspective. A family of 4 on a 7-day sailing would pay $18 per person per day. By the end of the cruise, that adds up to $504 in gratuities alone. And unless you visit guest services and request an adjustment, that charge is automatically applied to your account. I've taken more than 25 cruises, and I can tell you, even when I know the charge is coming, seeing the final gratuity total still catches me off guard. It adds up faster than most people expect. If you're in a higher stateroom category, the daily amount increases. Concierge class and Aqua class guests are charged $19 per person per day, while guests staying in the retreat pay $23 per person per day. So the more premium your accommodation, the higher the automatic gratuity. Personally, I wish cruise lines would simply include gratuities in the advertised fare and show the real total price up front. Luxury lines like Silversea Cruises and Seabourn Cruise Line already do this by bundling gratuities into their pricing. It makes budgeting easier and the entire booking process far more transparent. Prepaying gratuities. The biggest advantage to prepaying is simple. You lock in the rate. Every few years, Celebrity Cruises, like most major cruise lines, increases its daily gratuity amount. If you prepay at the time of booking, you're protected from any price increases that happen between the day you book and the day you sail. So, if rates go up, you've already secured the lower amount. But there are also some downsides. One of the biggest disadvantages is onboard credit. If you prepay your gratuities, you can't use onboard credit to cover them because they've already been paid. That means your onboard credit has to be used on other purchases during the cruise. Things like drinks, specialty dining, shore excursions, or spa treatments. And since onboard credit is usually non-refundable, anything you don't use by the end of the sailing is typically forfeited. The other disadvantage is flexibility. When you prepay gratuities, you generally lose the ability to adjust or remove them on board. If you were to experience a service issue and felt an adjustment was warranted as part of resolving it, that option becomes much more limited once the gratuities have already been paid in advance. On Celebrity Cruises, it is possible to have gratuities removed or modified, but you have to go to guest services and request it in person. It's not something that's advertised, and it doesn't happen automatically. You have to actively ask for it. Remember, removing gratuities doesn't apply to passengers who prepaid their gratuities. On one of my Baltic cruises, I met a couple who told me they go to guest services on every sailing and have their automatic gratuities removed. Instead, they tip in cash at their own discretion throughout the cruise. Personally, I'm not a big fan of completely removing gratuities unless you're truly replacing that full daily amount in cash. Otherwise, it can feel like you're gaming the system. The automatic gratuity pool supports more than just the people you see every day. It includes crew members behind the scenes as well. And not everyone works in a position where they receive direct cash tips. And just to be transparent, I personally tip extra, above and beyond the $18 per person per day. I usually give additional cash tips to my cabin steward, my waiter, and my assistant waiter at the start and end of the cruise. Here's something I actually appreciate about celebrity cruises. You can use onboard credit to pay for your gratuities. Not all cruise lines allow this. Some place restrictions on onboard credit and won't let you apply it toward daily gratuities at all. But Celebrity Cruises doesn't have that limitation, which can make a meaningful difference when it comes to your final bill. For example, on one of my cruises, I had two separate onboard credits, one for $100, which I got from my travel agent, and another onboard credit for $33.63, which I got as a port tax credit since we skipped a port due to the weather. As you can see on my statement, those onboard credits were applied directly toward my daily $18 per person gratuity charges. They were also used to cover a room service charge of $11.94 and $81.60 in wine charges at the restaurant. After those credits were applied, my remaining balance was $175.91. If you're someone who receives onboard credit as part of a promotion or from a travel agent, being able to apply onboard credit to pay your gratuities is a big plus. Now let's talk about gratuities on beverage and specialty dining packages. With Celebrity Cruises, all beverage packages automatically include a 20% gratuity, but it isn't always obvious. And a lot of passengers don't realize they've already paid the gratuities unless they read the fine print. This 20% automatic gratuity doesn't just apply to drink packages. It also applies to other prepaid packages, including specialty dining packages. So if you buy a specialty dining package, for example, you've already prepaid the 20% gratuity. Because of this, some guests end up tipping the bartender, server, or dining staff every time they order, essentially tipping twice without meaning to. One of the frustrations with cruise gratuities is that they function as a blanket service charge. Everyone pays the same daily amount, whether they use every onboard service or not. Take dining, for example. Some passengers rarely eat in the main dining room. They prefer the buffet or specialty restaurants instead. Yet they still pay the same gratuities as someone who eats 3 meals a day in the main dining room. The same applies to stateroom service. Some guests request that their cabin steward not clean the room daily, maybe for privacy or environmental reasons. But even if they ask for less frequent service, the full gratuity charge still applies with no adjustment. That raises a fair question. Why isn't there a credit or reduction for opting out of certain services? Major hotel chains already do this. For example, Marriott offers loyalty points as an incentive for declining daily housekeeping. If you book a spa treatment or salon service on Celebrity Cruises, they automatically add a 20% service charge to the bill. That charge is meant to cover gratuity for the service. Here's where it gets confusing. Even though the service charge is already included, the receipt often still has a blank gratuity line. If you're not paying close attention, it's easy to assume you still need to add an additional tip. One of the most frustrating parts of cruise tipping is the lack of transparency about where gratuities actually go. The service charge on Celebrity Cruises is distributed among various crew members, including dining staff, bar staff, culinary teams, stateroom attendants, and the hotel services team. In theory, the idea is to support the entire team that contributes to your cruise experience. But here's the problem. Passengers are rarely told how that money is divided or exactly how much each role receives.
Get your free cruise packing list. Whether you're a first-time cruiser or a seasoned traveler, This one-page checklist makes sure you never forget the essentials. Download my free cruise packing list printable. Link in the description below. Want to know what the most overpriced things on cruises are? Don't waste your money on them. Watch the next video. I hope you found this video helpful. Please like and subscribe. Thanks for watching.